Hi, this is Mr. Remy, and welcome, gangsters. This is a video to help you do the activity about typing math. So let's type math. Now you're going to have to open Microsoft Windows. You might not know where it is. You might be that kid. Anyway, if you click the little finder down here and go to Applications, then you should have a whole bunch of this stuff. This one here, Microsoft Office. If you click that, that's where you can find Microsoft Word. Alright, so you can open it that way if you don't know any other way. So we're going to type some math because in your future math courses, you're going to have to be able to communicate whatever you're doing math-wise in some kind of digital form. So let's do a couple of examples that'll be very, very similar to the ones in your activity handout. Now, what you're going to need to do is, first of all, you probably want this zoomed pretty big because this stuff is so small, it's hard to see sometimes when you're writing these equations. So I made mine 500%. Now, to put an equation in, you'd go to Insert, and you would go down to Equation. Oh, and there, you can type it in there. For some reason, it always puts it in the center. You can leave it in the center, or you can hit Command L to make it go to the left, So let's say you want to type in an equation that's similar to number 5 on your paper. You have a fraction. Now if you look across the top, there's a whole bunch of symbols over here, and then there's more and 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 more symbols. You have a fraction menu here. Look at all those types of fractions. I usually do this first type. I don't like the other types. They make me sad. Then you have some exponents and some subscripts. You also have an x squared in there. That one's pretty helpful. You have your radicals menu here. Quadratic formula. You're going to need that later, so pay attention to that. Then you have some other stuff that you're not going to use. It's scary looking, but then you have parentheses here. Those are useful. Absolute value bars here. Okay, curly braces here. Some other stuff you're not going to use, some other stuff you're not going to use, and then some other stuff that you're not going to use. Okay? Now, so let's start off with a fraction. So you can click this, and then you can just type in the numbers that you want. I want 1/5, let's say. Now, after the 1/5, I want something else. So I'm just going to press to the right once. And I'm still inside this box that's here. So I'm still making an equation. So I can do, let's say, 5x plus 12, close parentheses, equals, and again, I'm making this very similar to what you have in your handout. So let's say, okay, let's say we have this. Now, I want this 14 to be a fraction, so I'm going to highlight it, go up to fraction, and it will make that the numerator of my fraction. And if I want this part here in parentheses, I can highlight it and then, just tell the computer to put parentheses around it. So you'd go up to bracket, and it would be this first one here. And see how it made the parentheses a little bit bigger than the others? That's because it knew that there was this big, tall fraction over there. Alright, so you probably want to press pause now and type the one that you have in your handout into the file that you'll eventually turn into me. Now, let's take a look at a second example. Second example of a proportion will be pretty easy because we just talked about fractions. So you go to Insert, Equation, and I'm going to start with x. Now if I make this a fraction, remember it's going to become the numerator. So let's say x over 5. I'm going to press to the right to get out from underneath the fraction. Oh, I want a new fraction. Go to fraction. Let's say it's going to be 3x plus 5, that's not a 5, over 7. There you go. Click in the right spots. Oh, that's an email I got. Who's it from? None of your business. Alright, let's see. Next one, system of equations. You're going to have some fraction action. So let's check those out. Oh, I didn't insert equation. It was just regular typing. Don't want it. Alright, let's see. So we got y equals, now let's say we want a fraction again. So many fractions. Let's say 1/3. Now I don't want to put the x down here. So I have to get out from underneath there, which means I have to press to the right. Right. So then we have the rest of the stuff you can type as normal. If you want to type an equation underneath it, just hit enter or return, and then you can put your new equation there. So let's take a look at something a little bit more complicated. You guys did a lot with radicals, and so let's take a look at those, because those were kind of pre-typed for you before, and some of you didn't type them the correct way, and it made it difficult for me to read them. So the correct way would be to insert an equation. Ooh, why won't it let me? Insert equation. All right. Now I'm going to type one similar to your handout. Now it has a square root. Let's get a square root going. Okay, now in the radicand we want a fraction, if we want a fraction, which I want to do one like your handout. So I'd highlight what's under here and tell the computer to change it into a fraction. And then you can type in whatever makes sense for your problem. Okay, now a lot of times we split this up. We end up splitting this up into two fractions. So let me stay inside this box for the equation, and I'm going to want a fraction. All right, so I can go to equation tools up here since I lost my place. Equation tools. Now I want to write that as two separate radicals. So make a fraction. Then in the numerator you want a radical. And then highlight the part you want to type in. Same thing down below. Make that a radical. Type in the radicand. And then you can continue just like that for the rest of it. Okay, simplifying all the rest of that stuff. Let me go fast. That's just going to be a square root of 15, right? All right, the bottom you're going to break up two radicals, multiplying. So there's a radical. Click to the right so you're not under there anymore. Use the asterisk for multiplication if you want. And then you need another radical. I'm still in the denominator, you can tell. New radical down there. Okay, and then you can do your last step over here. You know what? I'm not going to type that again. What a chump. There we go. And this, I'm going to copy that and paste that over here. But this, I don't want that. Square root of 4 is really 2, right? And that looks kind of lame. Let's get that out of there. Oh no, radical in the denominator. Well, you know how to fix that, and I don't feel like typing all of it. That should be enough to get you started on all the radicals. All right. I know that's kind of quick, but that's why it's a video. You can pause it, rewind it, etc. All right. Then what? Quadratic formula. Well, we have to do exponents, right? So sometimes, let's start it off with just x instead of an x squared. It's going to be an x squared in a minute. Let's say I have this. Let's say I typed it out like regular. You can highlight it if you want and go to insert equation, and it'll change it into an equation, which is pretty fresh. If you want this to be an x squared, you have two options. You can go to the script one and hit this, and that'll give you a little box where you can put the 2 in. Or, if you want, you can just go in front of the addition sign and go up to script and hit the x squared button, and it puts the x and the exponent in there for you. So if you're going to solve this, This particular one is factorable, but maybe you have this one that is not. Then you could use the quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula, we already saw that before. If you go to equation tools or insert equation, where was it? Where was it? Was it in radicals? Yep, because it has a big old radical in it. Boom, it's already there. So that's kind of your template for the rest of this. So if you have to do a problem involving this, you can copy it and you can paste it. Maybe you want a space between those. And then you can fill in the numbers. Let's say you're doing a problem where the value of b is -3. And if the value of b is -3, then type that in there. Your values for a and c, you can type those in as well. Maybe it's that. And what was a again? A was 3. So highlight that, parentheses, 3. And then from there you can use that same template to do the rest of it. Just typing less and less as you go. So if I cut and paste, then I can just change this into what it is, a 9. And I can change this into what it is, a 12. Oh, bad example, Remy. And that is really a 3. And that is really a 6. Now this is a bad example because we didn't talk about, cut and paste, we didn't talk about, what to do if you have a negative in the radicand. So we have just said no real solution. Most of yours will end up having a solution though. Okay, so pause, rewind, go back to the parts that you need as you do your activity. The end. See you next time.